Hey, everybody. Welcome to our AEW Post Game live show following World's End, which was maybe the most time-sensitive, responsible show that Tony Khan has done. Did we clock in at actually under 4 hours for the pay-per-view?
Just over. I think the show went off the air at 2 minutes after the top of the
Okay.
hour. But you know what? Flowers
Yes.
to Tony for the self-control.
Absolutely. Also, happy holidays to everybody. I know we are 2 days after Christmas, but still this week between Christmas and New Year's is kind of a fun one. So feels like the holidays still. And I want to mention before we actually get into this, by the way, we had a ton of content this weekend. Paul and Jeff did their Dynamite show covering the last week of AEW TV, kind of heading into World's End. And then this morning, we had the Power Bombshells do their pre-show. And now Jeremy and I are here to recap the pay-per-view. But I wanted, before we even got into it, I wanted to tease some folks, let some folks know that we do have an interview with Dave Meltzer that you and Stephen Conway did for a very special edition of Speaking of Strong Style, which will go live on this channel, actually YouTube channel and our audio channel on Monday. The video will go up Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific. The audio will already be in the audio feed if you just want to listen to the audio. But Jeremy and Stephen got Dave for an hour and 20 minutes or so to just talk about Hiroshi Tanahashi. So we're getting Jeremy literally the day before he leaves to Japan because he's going to Wrestle Kingdom.
I got a lot going on, guys.
He's trying to get this one in.
So I got Dave for 80 minutes, and it's pretty much a conversation about Hiroshi Tanahashi. And we try and just ask anything and everything that we can think of about his career to just kind of understand the impact that this guy had on pro wrestling, because it's honestly greater than I think any of us really realize.
Yes. Well, I mean, greater is a hard word, because I guess the thing that I would say is, to me, when I came into watching New Japan Pro Wrestling, he was the man. And I was like, my goodness, like, this guy's amazing. And of course, he then hands the torch to Okada eventually, but he still stays amazing. And, you know, his body has taken some lumps, but, you know, it's only been gosh, we're talking 2019 when he had that amazing match with Omega to win back the IWGP Championship. He's had good matches since then, but that's one where you're like, this dude still has it. And so
that's arguably the era end for that entire, the 8th period ended with that night, because after that, you know, he drops the title to Jay White, but it's more like a victory lap kind of career at that point. You know, he never really comes near the IWGP title again. He starts going for Rev Pro titles, Never titles, the US title. He's there, but, you know, like that match in 2019 was the thing. And one of the things that we were talking about with Dave on that show was, if you pull the thread, the butterfly effect. If there's no Tanahashi, there's no Okada. And if there's no Okada at the end, there's no Omega. And if there's no really Omega and the Bucks, do we have the current landscape of wrestling that we currently do? And so he started this wave of like a pathway for wrestling that was diametrically opposite of WWE and what they were doing. And he really is fundamentally the roots of everything that we watched tonight.
All right, so let's talk about this show. I had two big things that happened that I circled and that I wanted to talk to you about. And the first one, and it's very interesting to see what the reception is. We are still only less than an hour since the show has ended as we are talking. So I don't know what the overall response is, but MJF re-winning the AEW Championship, the World Championship. I don't know why people were necessarily surprised, though I am seeing some folks who are surprised. And there are also some folks who are just like, I kind of thought that this was going to happen. I was just hoping that it didn't. And I think it's the idea that MJF being back into the mix and him having to be the champion, rather than they had Hangman. Maybe Kyle Fletcher is kind of on the come up. Samoa Joe, I thought was going to be a transitional champion. Some people thought he
Yeah.
was through this show, but I don't know. What is your thoughts on just the idea of MJF being back on top after being away for a few months there?
Well, you know, I don't remember the last time that World's End didn't have a main event that ended up being a four-way in some way, shape, or form. So the fact that it ended up being a four-way when it was teased as a three-way and then MJF came back, everything seemed to kind of make sense to me. It's like the question of why did Samoa Joe take the title off of Hangman Page back in November really, really led me to wonder, like, well, what's the plan here? What's going on? And it ended up being MJF was taking his seat back at the table, as it were, in AEW, and he is a trusted main event talent that Tony gravitates towards.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that he was coming back, and I saw that Samoa Joe had the title, MJF lost the title to Samoa Joe, so it checks off a box for him personally that he would get the title back. And then, doing a four-way like this, you then get the singles matches with Hangman Page, where the whole dynamic is different with MJF being the champion, and then you're going to get that Swerve MJF match. It all just seemed to make sense. It was the fresh direction, and MJF is that guy, and whether we like it or not, he has always been in the picture. He's always been a player, and he's always been someone that has been protected, even when he goes away. When he goes away, it's a big deal when he comes back. You can't say that about 90% of the talent. When they come back, they show up in a video package or in a backstage segment or something this or that. When MJF lost to Hangman, he did that backstage segment, wrapping off his tape, talking about how he was going to come back better than ever, and he was going to be a different MJF. And that was the groundwork that they laid. Whether we like it or not, whether you want to say that MJF is a Triple H kind of in his prime, taking up the spot for talent that's deserving of others, I don't know. I think there's room for everyone at the top. I think having MJF there lays the groundwork for a babyface potentially down the line coming back and setting up a challenger for that champion. But if you don't have a strong heel champion, and Samoa Joe is great as a transitional champion, but he wasn't the guy in the long run. And so if it was going to be Fletcher, they would have gone with Fletcher when they had the opportunity. So it's going to be MJF. And as long as they can create compelling stories that don't get, completely upended by the creative vices of MJF and other people booking some of this stuff, I think it's going to be fine.
I don't know if I agree with you that having lots of guys at the top, or however you just said that. I think the way that I look at this is MJF himself is their top star, at least right now. Maybe some people would say, oh, maybe it's Ospreay or whatever. But he is the guy that they feel comfortable coming back to time and time again. So if you want your top star to have that title, that you believe that title means much more when your top star has it. And the reason why you put it on Samoa Joe is so that your MJF does not beat Hangman, because eventually you want to set up Samoa Joe or MJF and Hangman. You want to set up MJF and Mark Briscoe again. You want to set up, I guess they'll do the Bandito match as well. But this is kind of what they do. I feel like Tony is much more comfortable having a heel champion just because you have the baby faces, ready to fight that heel champion, by hook or by crook, MJF escapes and he still keeps the title. It feels like that to me, very similar to the Mox story of last year. So we'll see how it happens. Personally, I wanted to see Hangman get a longer run.
I'm with you. Yes.
I get why Tony likes again having a heel champion. I prefer the babyface champion because I think once you make that babyface and the fans truly believe in that babyface, it is the opposite. It is actually the heels who come in and you just have this babyface fight off of all these heels. It's kind of the idea of WWF in the 80s versus NWA in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
WWF was the babyface champion, Hogan, and then you're fighting all the heels. And on the NWA side, it was Flair, and he's fighting all the baby faces. So, Tony has his preference. I just wish we would have seen Hangman take it to another level, because I think that's where, if Hangman is here and you want to take him to that next level, well, him having a great run as a babyface that the fans believe in would have been the way to go. But we are where we are. And we have MJF as the champion heading into 2026.
I agree with you 100% that they should have gone longer with Hangman. I feel like right now in pro wrestling, yes, CM Punk and Cody are the world champions in WWE, but I have not been excited about a babyface world champion. And I thought Hangman was the exciting babyface world champion that could really get catalyze the audience, but they decided not to go in that direction. And one of the things we have an adage about in pro wrestling is the man makes the title or the title makes the man. And in the past, I would have said MJF is a man who makes the title. But right now, I think we're in a situation with MJF where the title kind of has to make the man right now. And I think that's an interesting position that MJF is in, because this is really got to be a reestablishment period for him, because he just came in and he just won the title. There was really no warm up to it. And here we are. So there's a lot more rehabilitation to this than I think has been previously considered. And I hope they take that I hope they keep that in mind.
Now, he did win in a heel fashion, in a sneaky fashion, in a 4-way, no disqualification. He snuck in to hit the heat seeker on Samoa Joe to win the match, when Hangman had hit 3 buckshot lariats that did not take Samoa Joe down. He was about to hit a 4th, and MJF pushed Samoa Joe out of the way so that he could kick Hanger low to get Hanger out of there. He had just previously pushed Swerve off the top rope to the floor, and that gave him the opportunity to pin Samoa Joe to win the match. I guess the other thing is, when you look at this from a long-term perspective, now their WrestleMania is All In. They're going to go back to Wembley Stadium for that show. What is the biggest match they could possibly have for that show? My guess, I don't know this. I haven't talked to Tony about this. Kind of funny. I think Dave really wanted to talk to Tony on Friday, but Dave was finishing The Observer. I was out in San Francisco with my kid seeing Marty Supreme, and I know Brian had plans with his family, so we were trying to figure out if we could do it, and at the time, just didn't work out. So I would have loved to talk to him about kind of how he sees his world title picture, but I'm guessing it's MJF and Will Ospreay could be the perfect match for him at All In. But the biggest wild card for that is Will Ospreay's neck. And would he even be ready? So maybe this is a play on the possibility that Will is ready so that they can do that match at Wembley, because, we've said this since Will signed with AEW, that at some point his big win has to be in front of that giant crowd.
He's got to be
maybe that's the
somehow,
play,
right?
Yeah, maybe that's the play. And, this is the chance that he is. And then if he isn't going to be ready, then we'll know, because they'll have to pivot to whatever the other match will be. How do you see the next kind of pay-per-views, I guess? Like if we're thinking all the way down to Revolution,
Okay.
is that Hanger? Is that Swerve? Is that Hanger and Swerve? I gotta imagine that's got to be one of those two guys at least, or both.
Well, based off of the finish here, it would seem like Hangman is the guy to get the first crack because he basically had Joe put away for the most part until the Heat Seeker and throwing Page out of the way. So I kind of feel like Revolution is the first one. I feel like you got to get a Swerve match in there at some point. At this point, I think Moxley would also be an opponent that they kind of need to run back with MJF at the top level. It's all contingent on, if everyone got the best interest of AEW in mind. Say what you like, read into that what you will, but these are all top level guys that need to help elevate MJF. So when he drops the title to somebody, it means something. This is all predicated on finding the guy and going with the guy and who is the next guy. And, in my mind, you have MJF to Ospreay, and then Ospreay has his run with it, and then you do Ospreay and Fletcher.
Yes, I think that is a good way to go. But again, if we're saying that we need to make a babyface a fighting babyface, how long does Will get another shot at the title before you're already thinking of the next heel champion?
Well, it's like I'm thinking Will does 6 months because, okay, I've always had this adage that every championship is either the journey to get the title or what happens when you get the title, but rarely both. It's like when we had the Adam Page chase for the title, it kind of felt like he had his matches with people, but there wasn't really a story once he got the championship. But it was the story of him getting the championship. MJF's story is going to be about the title run, building him back up. So when we get to Ospreay, it really does feel like to me it is the moment where he gets that title and they celebrate in the big win because he can have a banger match with pretty much anyone. We're hoping he can come back in the first place, and we're hoping that he doesn't miss too many steps and he can, adjust his style of wrestling that's A, safer, and B, still is entertaining because the man is creatively just brilliant in the ring. And I feel like that may seem like an obstacle, but every challenge that this guy has had laid out in front of him, he's managed to overcome. So I do think that if all things, go right, and everything has to go right for Will Ospreay to be at Wembley going for a title match, right? Like there can't be any hiccups. There can't be any they're running the thread pretty thin on this one. So there's no guarantee he's even going to make it to Wembley. But if he does, that's the play.
All right, you mentioned Jon Moxley, and that is the second big story coming out of this show, which is that Jon Moxley, of all people, won the Continental Classic. And there was a discussion in our Discord about whether the story was going to be Jon Moxley losing everything in this Continental Classic. And I just assumed he was going to make the semifinals. And you know what's so funny about this Continental Classic? All the talk about, everybody had a chance, and yet it was just chalk. The winners were chalk. Yeah. It was the people who we thought were going to make it. So when somebody said, but Speedball had a chance, I was, come on. He's not winning this match. Where's the drama in that? Anyway.
With you, man. I just like these were the 4 guys, like you would go, I'd probably go with Moxley, Fletcher, Okada, Takeshita. Yeah, that seemed right. Like you could go with the Cesaro or you could go with like the Speedball if you really wanted to, but
there's no way he wasn't doing it.
You take the top guys and you move into the next round. You get the wrestlers that people are going to want to pay to see. That's it.
Yes. So the opener of the night was Kazuchika Okada against Konosuke Takeshita. I will admit that I did not see the majority of this match because I came a little later to Big Dave's house. From what I understand, it was a banger, and I just came in right at the wrong time, which is when Okada went to get the screwdriver. Okada's not a screwdriver wrestler, as you could tell, because he didn't quite know how to hide it or what to do with it. It was kind of the ref was just right there, and he could sort of see it because Okada didn't hide it correctly. And then when they got to the corner, the ref kind of turned and was supposed to then not see it so that Okada could use it, and it was just really bad. Like I
It was
thought
a bad night for all the referees tonight. It was
the referees were bad in certain spots, but this was a I don't know if it's a clever finish because we see it in a lot of AEW matches, this idea of the screwdriver, but it was going to play into the Moxley and Fletcher match. So it was kind of brilliant in that way, but they screwed the thing up in this match so much that it became comical at the end. And I'm going to guess probably dropped your mythical or your the star rating in your head for Okada and Takeshita a little bit.
I really just wanted a no bullshit match with a no bullshit finish. And I understand this is AEW and you need to have your little bit of outs and all that. And for whatever it was really good. Like they started the show with this match. And unfortunately, these two bastards had the best match on the show until they didn't. It's like, they're like, all right, we'll follow that. And then people did. And they weren't talking. You know what I mean? Like, I hope they run it back. I hope that it is done maybe with the less of the Don Callis-esque shenanigans at the end. I understand that this is not New Japan, and that is not the way the business works over here. A guy can dream. It's like the beginning of that match, you weren't able there. The energy was off the charts. Like everyone was hyped. Like it had been 14 months since they first teased this match, and we got a traditional Okada slow start, measured out, all the things. Okada looked trim and lean. Takeshita was primed to bring in his A game. It fell victim to the ulterior booking of a G1 style tournament in the Continental Classic. And so whether or not we get a match that has we're getting a clean finish without any shenanigans, I really hope so. On the scale of bad, good, very good, great, unbelievable, this was great. It wasn't unbelievable, but it was great.
So we should mention that Don Callis left after the match with Okada, celebrated with the winner. The Don King boxing reference there of if he was representing both guys, he was always going to go with the winner. And so Takeshita lost the match. He's kind of left by his own manager. And I didn't see a promo, but I know there's one on Twitter about him being frustrated in the back. So does what happened here tonight change anything about how you think Wrestle Kingdom is going to go?
No, because I was always of the opinion that Yota Tsuji was going to lose at Wrestle Kingdom.
Okay.
And Takeshita losing here has me believing that he's probably not going to lose again at Wrestle Kingdom back to back, especially as the IWGP title. Because yes, it's kind of different worlds and things don't really interact all that much. And even the show didn't even mention that Okada and Takeshita were going to be at the Tokyo Dome with plenty of opportunity to do so at All Night. So I would imagine that a lot of people think that Yota Tsuji is going to win that match and Takeshita is dropping the title, but I don't think that's the direction they're going.
So then the second semifinal was Jon Moxley and Kyle Fletcher. And all night long, we were kind of wondering what the story for Mox was. And that's why this match and tournament was important, even though I didn't really like the booking overall of the Continental Classic. I know a lot of people loved it. I'm not here to shit on what you guys liked, who did like it, but there was always the idea that something is going to happen with Moxley and the Death Riders throughout this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have Jon Moxley winning this entire thing on my bingo card. The entire time I was thinking, okay, he's here as a storyline vehicle, and I got to give some credit to our guy, Dr. Lariat there, who he he was the one who called Moxley winning it. And I was like, I just don't see Moxley caring about this belt, being that he's a former AEW champion. But, and we'll fast forward here a second, Moxley beats Fletcher in what is probably the best match on this show. I'm guessing Dave goes 5. Are you thinking the same?
Higher.
You think he goes higher than 5?
Yeah.
And then he beats Okada in the finals to win the title. He cuts this long promo. It's a babyface promo. He was a babyface for the majority of the night. He did some heel stuff, but the fans were completely behind him in it. And he cuts this babyface promo, which is really about paying respect to the guys who decided that they wanted to be in this grueling tournament. He paid respect to his own crew who were inside the ring as well, but it was way more about AEW, the company, AEW, the fans, AEW, the wrestlers. And it was really one of the most ludicrous babyface turns I've ever seen in my life because of all the damage that he's done as a heel. As recently as trying to drown Darby Allin in a tank, a fish tank. But he was so good at it. The fans were with him the entire time. And, I was talking to Paul Fontaine about this a couple weeks ago, and he was just so against Moxley turning. And I was like, well, go back to Austin. Like, Austin just kicking people in the nuts and slapping people in the dick and just doing all that stuff. And then the fans are behind him and he turns and all of a sudden he's a good guy. But, he's still flipping them off and stuff. So you can have these ludicrous babyface turns if the fans believe in them. And that live crowd really believed in Jon Moxley tonight. And if you are a critic of Jon Moxley, the wrestler, you think maybe he jokes around a little bit in the ring. He likes to take these Terry Funk-esque comical bumps and the way that he sells. This is one of the best nights of his career, probably, I think, just as a in-ring wrestler. Just the believability in what he was doing. It was really, really strong tonight. And I get the people who don't like Moxley in the ring. But I don't think tonight you can really find too much fault in what he was doing.
On our Discord, Adam had asked if there had been any wrestlers with 2 5-star matches in one night. And we were immediately told that, Will Ospreay did it last year with Fletcher and Okada in last year's C2. And there's a real shot that Moxley is going to get those same opportunity to get awarded to him, because both matches he had were pretty tremendous. But no, this was an unbelievable match. This reminded me of like Bret Hart, Steve Austin level of like selling and character work in the ring.
Dave's going to give it a better rating than that match too.
Oh, absolutely. Like, we watch it and we all agreed it was the best match of the night.
If I can find fault with it, all of the kickouts, like, and I guess it worked because the crowd was with them through all of it. But I found, for my taste and pace of wrestling, I thought maybe there was a couple too many, but the 2 counts, which are there because the fans think it's going to be the finish, and then it's not the finish, and then you get to the finish. But that is really a small critique on my end about what they did, and
they earned the 1 count kick out. But I will say, every match has one of these sick bumps where you just watch it and you think the guy died for a brief moment. And Fletcher took, I'm not even sure what he took again, but he landed on the back of his head and
a lot of that tonight.
and it was too much of it, man. Like, there's too much of that stuff. I remember you had made a comment at some point about, like, you want the illusion of danger
Yeah.
in good pro wrestling. You don't want the actual danger.
Yeah. Yeah, that is my real issue with today's wrestling, which is, when I was growing up, it was the idea that this stuff hurt, and then when you realized that they weren't actually hitting each other, you're like, wow, they're really good at what they do. And then, over the years, wrestling was less about trying to pretend it was real, and it was more about the fans accepting that it was a performance. And yet, that's where we are today, and they do more stuff to hurt each other today than they ever have done, at least in the US. I'm sure people will look at, Japan and say that, they were doing a lot of that stuff. But I go back to this speeder, the speedball Mike Bailey on the barricade slam. I'm like, if this has nothing to do with the finish, then why are we doing this move other than to say, look, this thing hurts? And I'm like, but that's not the point anymore. Like we're past that, especially when you follow that up, which is supposed to hurt, with a Hurricane Rana on the outside during the commercial break. So that is just my real problem with wrestling today. I wish they would slow that stuff down because, I mean, you look at the Darby Allin match, and the Darby Allin match was really good, and we'll get to that as far as the performances by him and Gabe. But Darby has done so many things. Then when he does something like take a post, you're like, he's going to do 5 things worse during this match. So I don't need to care about that one thing. And that's how I watch these Darby matches these days. And I know other people are like that with him.
I'm going to get back to Fletcher in a second. Do you find it at all ironic that he does all these bloodbath matches, that he is bleeding buckets
And then wins with a wrestling move?
No. What I'm going to ask you is, does it manage to blow your mind that it was a traditional wrestling match that managed to get him hospitalized and put him out of the C2, only for him to go back and just do a hardcore match instead with Gabe Kidd? It wasn't even any of the hardcore stuff that he does. It was just taking a really bad bump in a regular wrestling match.
He was supposed to be in the tournament, and he got pulled out because of being hurt in that was the Kevin Knight match, right?
Yeah, it was the Kevin Knight. He took the coast to coast really badly, I believe.
Okay, so Moxley then beats Okada, and he cuts this promo, like I said, and I was waiting for a small glimpse of a storyline turn. We did not get one. Claudio, some people may look into Claudio's smile, but he was clapping. I was looking at Garcia. I was looking
waiting for the side eye, waiting for
something. No Pac there, no Gabe Kidd there either, though he is not, I guess, officially aligned with them.
Although, Excalibur really wanted him to.
Yeah, Excalibur on Excalibur's notes, he was prepared to say that Gabe was there. Gabe wasn't. He apologized though. He said, "I apologize, Claudio."
All these bald studs in the ring.
Well, maybe that was just a compliment to Gabe because he leaned out. He looked really good on this show.
A lot of people looked like they were in game shape tonight.
Yeah. So Moxley then left the ring. He and his crew, Marina was holding the championship behind him above her head, and he walked out like a conquering hero. So we will see what happens. I imagine, if Moxley wants to be the fighting champion, hey, Claudio's right there. Claudio had a great tournament too. And Moxley's the one who knocked him out with his victory at the end. So that'd be a nice way to get wherever we are getting with the Death Riders. Whatever it is, they're going the slow route. So
yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Moxley ends up having matches, running it back with everyone in the C2 and just, doing another match with each one of them. Like everyone, they've earned for everybody. So, anyone who wants one, I'm sure Fletcher and might want one. Okada won't. I don't think, but the Speedballs, the Kevin Knights, the Jack Perrys, the Massacre Dorados. I mean, 100% believe that all those guys would get an opportunity. And then, Pac being the last guy, and then Pac takes the title from him. I could see something like that.
All right, so let's just go down quickly. We'll go over the results here. Did you watch any of this 0 hour?
I saw a few minutes of the last match, but basically all I saw was a limping Luchasaurus coming in to help the babyfaces win.
A limping Luchasaurus.
Yeah,
Oh,
he got beaten in the back, and he was all wrapped up and taped, and he only had one arm. And Jack Perry was incapacitated, and they rallied, Garrett. They rallied, and then they won the match.
All right, so the opener was the Sisters of Sin beating Maya World and is it pronounced Hyen?
Hyen, yes.
And Sisters of Sin won the match, but Hyen and Maya World are all elite. They were signed. They got the graphic and everything. Eddie Kingston faced Zach Gibson, and this allowed Ortiz to come back.
Ooh.
And he helped Kingston. Ortiz kind of gave it a little tease earlier on Twitter by
so he's
tweeting.
the new Hook for Kingston.
I guess he's a better Hook in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mascara Dorada and Bandito beat Rocky Romero and Mark Davis, 21 Plex. And then the match that you just mentioned,
right?
The Jurassic Express and Jet Speed beat Josh Alexander and the Demand. So we mentioned Takeshi and Okada. We mentioned Moxley and Fletcher. Those were the first two matches on the show. Then we had FTR versus the Bang Bang Gang in a Chicago street fight. Let's just say that I was sitting on my hands watching this match. And this is not to say anything about how hard they worked or the effort. There was lots of blood. It was a street fight. It was just ill-timed to me because I'm not sure why the Bang Bang Gang got the title shot because I think they already lost to these guys. And after watching two really excellent wrestling matches, I was just not in the mood to watch a garbage match. Though in some cases that you might say, well, you got the two wrestling matches and now we're going to give you something different because then we're going to go back to the wrestling matches. I also understand that. Any thoughts on FTR versus the Bang Bang Gang?
Honestly, it just felt long in the tooth. It went 17 minutes, but it felt like it went 30.
Yeah.
And I don't fault anyone. They were just doomed because the two matches before then were just so good. And I don't always advocate for this, but had Copeland and Christian come out at the end of this and kind of restarted that whole thing, maybe this whole thing would have changed, but it just it was just too extra on a show that, you needed to have something different, and a street fight, unfortunately, did not feel different on this show. And I don't know what that says about the Bang Bang Gang. I think they're missing a lot with their core group being only half of what it should be. Other than that, it just there.
So then, obviously, FTR won the match. I guess the meme of the night may have been our guy, Stokely, taking a backwards bump, and he was supposed to go through a table, and he just bounced off of this table and hit
he almost just slid and then plopped.
Yeah. I hope he's okay. I'm laughing because it was a funny way that it happened, and he covered up like he was in the fetal position. So I hope he's okay. But that will probably be the meme of the night. Babes of Wrath beat Mercedes Moné and Athena for the AEW Women's Tag Titles. I'm not going to say anything different from what I usually say about the Babes of Wrath, but Harley Cameron is just not at the level of a wrestler yet when she has to A, have a comeback that actually lasts, or B, sell certain moves. I think her problem is mostly on offense because she's trying to keep up with the other women, and her offense is often ill-timed, or she's in the wrong spot, or she's trying to memorize something, and it's like they're not on the same page. That being said, I really love her because I think she's got a fantastic personality, ton of charisma. She's great on the mic. So I would love to see her continue to grow. But when you watch these Babes of Wrath matches, she is the thing that stands out in a bad way. Though Athena and Willow had some issues in this match as well. And at the end of the day, Willow pins Mercedes Moné to win the match for the champions, which set up Mercedes cutting an F-bomb promo. And they're going to have a singles match on Wednesday on Dynamite, the New Year's Eve Dynamite. So we'll get to see Mercedes and Willow do it again. But, you know, I think the teams worked really hard to try and make this match great. I don't think it was great. It was good though. There were some spots that if you really wanted to critique it, you could point out and go, okay, that didn't work and that didn't work. But I still think it was a good match. It just did not reach a level that they were probably trying to get it to.
Yeah, I got some pushback on it, but I thought this match was better than the men's tag match that preceded it. And I think by the end of it, I felt like they did more with less and they weren't indulgent. And yeah, there was stuff like Athena biting off a little bit more than she could chew with some of those power moves on Willow. And I think you're spot on with Harley Cameron trying to get by on the character work because her work rate is not at the level of the rest of them. But I'm really enjoying this Mercedes Moné fall apart where all of a sudden she keeps losing these matches and she's losing her titles as it goes. And her meltdown today, that promo where she dropped the F-bomb, I'm not a big proponent of using the F-bomb, but if you're going to use it, you use it once and make it have an impact. But if you keep using it all the time and everyone cuts the promo and use the F-bomb, there's no power to it whatsoever. There was so much power. When that audience reacted to like Mercedes using that F-bomb against Willow, it instantly made it a match where it's like, ooh, I think I want to see this one.
By the way, I want to share some comments from some of the people in the chat real quick before we move to the next match. Dana says, I'll see you at Wrestle Kingdom. So I'm sure that was for you.
Hub's British Pub at noon on January 4th. All the podcasters are going to be there, and we're all going to hang out before Wrestle Kingdom and celebrate or cry based off of who you want to win or lose.
So Dana also says, I think Dave gives Mox 2 5 stars and he'll hate doing it. I don't know if that Moxley and Okada match got to
4.75 maybe.
Yeah, 4.5, 4 3/4, possibly. I think it was like well on its way, and then it ended much sooner than I thought it was going to end. We were kind of shocked.
Given how hard they worked in both of their matches the first time, I can understand that match not going too long.
Yeah. Fernando is also in the chat. What up, Fernando? We'll get to some of your stuff at some point as well.
Holy crap. That match with Moxley and Okada went 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was longer than Okada's first match of the night, and it was a little shorter than Moxley's first match of the night.
Yes.
Right in between.
To me, it just felt like it was building, and then right as I thought they were just getting into gear, that's when it ended.
Yeah.
Darby Allin, we mentioned, he beat Gabe Kidd. It was a bleeding buckets match. I like Gabe Kidd a lot. I know there are some people who don't like Gabe Kidd a ton. I think he's got a ton of talent. I think he's got an opportunity because his personality is just so different than some folks. There's a Conor McGregor-ness to him, though I wouldn't say that he is a wrestler like how Conor McGregor was a fighter, but I dig it. I also assumed Darby was winning and that Gabe was here to have a really good match, but also to give Darby a win, and that's what we got. Again, I really have no issue with the match. I thought the match was good. I am just numb to the Darby shtick. So when it comes down to all of the crazy stuff that he's doing, as long as he gets up, I'm like, okay, he's gonna do something else crazy. Yeah. And that's just my issue with his matches right now. So I don't know. What did you think about Gabe?
I thought this was probably the second most important match of his career. In all honesty, probably behind the Omega match that he had earlier this year. This was, for all intents and purposes, his big audition for the stage at AEW. A singles match with a guy that everybody trusts with Darby Allin, and he held his own. His character work, his aggressiveness, his ability to convey like this uncaged animal kind of mentality. I think the entire presentation worked really, really well. And if you're a fan of Gabe Kidd in New Japan, you're going to become apparently a fan of Gabe Kidd in AEW sooner rather than later.
And then we got next was our what was this? The Mixed Nuts Mayhem match.
Yeah, that's what it's called. The mixed 8-man tag team Mixed Nuts Mayhem match.
And so the whole thing, like there was a little bit of a meta point to this match, which was AEW does not acknowledge that Roderick Strong and Marina are married, though I would guess 75% of their fan base knows that they are, but AEW fans are in on the joke. And I was saying how normally I'm not a fan of kind of some of the comedy stuff, but also just the idea of Claudio, giving the spin, the around the world to Tony. But I think they built it up to the things that the fans wanted to see. And that's part of what this game is about, is giving fans the spots that they want to see. My guy, Ryan Howard, a.k.a. the best recapper in the business, says it over-delivered. He didn't expect to enjoy that as much as he did, and it didn't overstay its welcome either.
I agree completely.
And, you got Tony doing fun spots. I always think about some of the mixed gender matches, and the best match I ever saw Kylie Ray in was with Speedball, and I was like,
oh right,
yeah, when we were at that one show in Chicago, I was like, man, this is really good. And it's because Speedball is really good, for one, and he can do all of the things that she needs a dance partner to do. And so in some cases, women may have better matches with guys who can just do the things that they want them to do. And you got some of that here, but you also got kind of the fans being in on the joke, everybody like having a good time with it. And I don't even remember what the finish was. What was the finish in this match? Oh, it was Mark Briscoe. That's what it was.
He gave the J Driller to
the J Driller
to Wheeler Yuta. I was
Wheeler Yuta.
Wheeler Yuta it was the victim, but they did the whole shtick with Tony and Orange doing the dancing, and it got a little silly at some point. But the thing is you're supposed to have fun with pro wrestling, right? Like, you're supposed to go to the show and have fun. And sometimes we got to present to you all the blood and blow you away and shock you and blood, sweat, and tears, blah, blah, blah. Like, sometimes you just want to laugh. You want to smile. You just want to have a good time at the show. And this was the match where it's just like, you know what? I had a good time watching that one. That made me smile, and I enjoyed a bunch of it. And I went away happy. And that's what that match was. And we take for granted how important that is on a wrestling show. This was a great match.
By the way, I am using Ryan Howard's recap of this show because I didn't take any notes while we were watching. So
shout
out to Ryan Howard. All right, yes. And in a match I really enjoyed, even though I'm not sure that this was built up necessarily the best that it could have been. Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter. The thing about this match to me is there's clearly something missing from Chris Statlander to kind of level up to where Tony Storm and Mercedes are. Whether it's charisma, personality, the fact that maybe she's been around the longest. I don't know what that is. And so how do you get her up? And the answer may simply be just keep having really good matches, right? Because this match with Jamie Hayter, though, there were some scary things happening in this match too, and I hope both women are okay. Hard hitting, just really good stiffness to some of their stuff. All of their power stuff looked great. And it was just a really strong match. And maybe maybe Chris Statlander is just the working woman's champion. And I don't know if that is, maybe that isn't gonna be the thing, but whatever it is, I thought this was just a great display of what Chris Statlander does really well. And she had a great opponent in the ring to do that stuff with. So hats off to both women. On a show like this, are people going to see this match as, one of the best matches on the show? I'm not sure, but I just think from an aspect of hard hitting and believability and just working really, really hard to get where they wanted by the end of it, I thought they did a great job.
Garrett, they worked so hard. They worked so hard. Everyone is waiting for the next two matches on this thing. And maybe about 8 minutes of this 18-minute match, all of a sudden, this crowd realized that I don't know what the right gendered way to call a women's version of a mean guy match is, but that's what it was, is that they were physical, they hit hard, and like every lariat, like they hit the ring mat so hard that it was just like, oh man, I feel this one. And if Chris Statlander just ends up being the champion, it's like, you literally have to put me in the ground because I am so physically imposing. Like that's a great way to stand out. Like there was character work to all these other wrestlers, but if you literally just have the like, you can't beat me because I will beat you to death first, that I am here for that.
The thing about this as well, I think a lot of people feel like Jamie Hayter lost her fastball a little bit in her return because she was out for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And that she was awesome here too. Like that's kind of what I like about this match as well, which is I'm more excited to see what happens to both of them, or just as excited as I am to see where they go next with Moxley and his crew.
Okay, let me ask you something here. Chris Statlander has now had matches with Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter, and Mercedes Moné in singles matches. At what point do we not say that she's for real and she's like a top down?
Well, but that's the thing, right? She's having these really good matches, so why isn't she connecting necessarily with? And sometimes, you see that with a lot of wrestlers, like a lot of male wrestlers.
What is she missing that isn't like taking her?
That's the $1 million question. Whatever that is
it the booking? Is it the way that she's being presented? I do think the alien thing is a little bit of a disconnect. Like,
but does she still do that stuff? Is that still part of her act?
Well, she came out in a run-in and she was wearing this like weird cargo outfit a couple of days ago. And on one of the shows that I was watching, I've had issues with my HBO Max, and there's been a bunch of shows that I flat out haven't been able to see. And I came into this show really excited because I was able to watch all the recaps. And it was like, yeah, great. But this one, I didn't need a whole lot of story coming into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a challenger, and she wanted the title, and they were going to fight each other for it, and that's what they did.
Yeah. But it's like, shouldn't this match have been even bigger on the card? Like, why wasn't it? Why didn't we look forward to it as much as the Continental? Like, there's something there, right? And I hope that they figure it out, because I think having Stat being maybe she's not going to be on that Tony or Mercedes level, but just being like right there with them is going to benefit that division. And having what Hayter showed tonight is like, okay, she's very close as well to being what she was when she left. And maybe she is as good as she left, but just when she was gone, other people elevated. So I'm very intrigued with where they go with stats. So I'm looking forward to that.
The easy excuse is that, yes, we had the C2, and so we weren't able to prioritize this as much as we wanted to. But in every month of the AEW programming, there are decisions that are being made that's like, what is a priority and what is not.
Mm-hmm.
Actively making Chris Statlander and building her into a top level so that you have someone, in addition to Mercedes Moné, in addition to Tony Storm, as you're building Willow Nightingale at the same time. Like, you either are doing it and you're committed to it, or you're half-heartedly doing it and you're going to get the results that you deserve as a result.
All right, we already talked about the Continental Classic final with Moxley beating Okada. We talked about the four-way where MJF won the title, so we won't recap those matches again. But I do have a question for you, which is sometimes when we talk about these shows, it's like, okay, we have you build and build and build, and you get to this show, and then it's like, what's next? What do you think is going to be what do you think is the most important thing for this upcoming Wednesday's show? You have a new world champion, you have a new Continental Classic winner, you have a dominant female champion. Like what is the thing that is kind of like getting you to tune in on Wednesday night?
I think it's probably going to be MJF and Jon Moxley title celebrations.
As long as Moxley did his own tonight, so who knows?
I suppose so, but it's like I wouldn't be shocked if Moxley has a title defense like right out the gate with one of those C2 guys.
Yeah, that's kind of his deal, right?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we get on Dynamite is MJF out with that title, doing the whole thing. And if it were me, Bandito would come out there. He's got that ring. And then all of a sudden you've got a match with MJF versus Bandito, title versus ring on the line, winner take all. And then you're right back to what everyone was scratching their head. Why isn't MJF interested in this ring?
So Matt wants to know if you talked about how this Takeshi Okada feud affects what they're doing in New Japan. We kind of referenced it. Jeremy said that he doesn't think it changes his mind. He has Takeshita beating Tsuji, but do you think Okada beats Tanahashi, right?
Yeah. I don't think. Yeah, I think Okada. I don't think Okada is coming to the Tokyo Dome to lose.
And that's been the story since Okada was able to finally get over the mountain on Tanahashi.
Yeah, he never put anybody over.
he never relinquished that back, right? So
we talked about that in that show with Dave. Is that there was damage to New Japan when Nakamura and Okada didn't put anyone over.
Yeah, Matt, we talked about this in the beginning. Jeremy has an interview with Jeremy and Steven talked to Big Dave for about an hour and 20 minutes about Tanahashi and the retirement and everything.
Tanahashi.
And it's going up Monday, so you'll be able to check that out. Okay. Did you think anybody, like, this was a hard one because there were some very specific things in these matches where obviously Jon Moxley got over huge as a babyface to this crowd. Now we'll see how that turn happens. I thought Stat and Hayter both got over really big. Mercedes, there's something with her character dropping the F-bomb. Was there anybody else that you thought got stuff from this show where you're like, I'm really looking forward to what they're doing next?
I thought the character work of Kyle Fletcher when he couldn't find the screwdriver was kind of like he elevated his game, and I think his entire performance tonight took him to yet another level that the sky's the limit with the guy. And it took two to tango for that Moxley Fletcher match to be as great as it was, and he was a big part of it. So if there's another person I could add to that list, it could be Kyle Fletcher.
I wonder when they run that match back, Moxley and Fletcher.
I think you wait a year.
Because they have the Australia Grand Slam show in February. They have the Revolution pay-per-view in March. Those are going to be their next big shows. And like logically, if you're Kyle and you just lost this crazy back and forth match, by the skin of your teeth, what is the logical thing that Kyle Fletcher wants answers about? I think he wants answers about where the damn screwdriver was. I guess he wasn't watching the opener. So there's some strife still within the Callis team. Okada and Takeshita. We'll see where that whole thing goes.
You can set that up for sure. The other thing is, like, you think about the guys that Fletcher has lost to, right? It's
Mighty
Hangman,
Mark.
it's Ospreay, it's Moxley. When Fletcher's the guy and he has his hit list, I was like, no, I'm taking my pound of flesh out on you. And he's going to beat all these guys at one point. And we're setting all that up for down the line. It feels very, very deliberate, the guys that he has lost to and the guys that he has been protected against. And I think this is all bricks in the wall for later on. For sure. And I think there are other guys on the roster that they, can parlay in between. I'm waiting for the Omega Fletcher match that I think is going to happen one day. And I think that's the one that I'm really looking forward to, that I'm not quite sure is going to happen, but I'm really crossing my fingers that it does.
So Moxley has a Continental belt. What's the belt that Okada has again?
I think it's the Unified belt. Because the Unified belt and the Continental belt were different. Okay. I might have that wrong, but
whatever it is, there's an extra title now because the belts are split.
Yeah.
So if Fletcher,
because they unified the belt with Omega,
right.
He had a belt and then it became the Unified belt.
Right. So yeah, whatever the Okada half of that Unified Championship is called, I can't remember what it's called at this point. But so there are, I think there are like 5 male championships in AEW right now, and the fact that Kyle Fletcher doesn't have one is interesting. So I imagine within the next couple of months he will probably have one of those titles, just because that is, if you're thinking about the evolution of his game, kind of getting something to reach that world title status again. International champ is what Ryan said. Okay. Yeah, I was like, it's not intercontinental. Like, what is the
No, we have an international champion. We have a continental champion. We have a TBS champion.
National
TNT champion.
National champion.
We have a national champion and we have a world champion.
Yeah. So that's a lot of belts. And
cool. The more the less they matter.
Well, I think in your early analogy, who has those belts is a little bit more lesser than the AEW World title. Who has those other belts is kind of important.
Not quite as deal making or breaking.
All right, so let's talk about Dave Meltzer star rating. So you said Moxley and Fletcher you think is going over 5. You thinking 5.25, 5.5?
5.25. I would say 5.5 is the absolute ceiling that it would go. Yeah. I think 5.5 might actually be realistic.
I wonder what the highest star rating Jon Moxley has ever received from Dave. Jon Moxley match. The match.
This is one of the best matches he's ever had.
The match with Hangman, I think, got 5 at All In. What else?
I actually can look this up.
But this quite possibly is his best match ever, depending on what scale you are using. What do you think the Okada and Takeshita match is going to get?
4.75.
I don't want to say, because like I said, I walked in late on that match. The finish definitely took it down, though. The small botch in the finish. What about Moxley and Okada? You think 4.75 again?
Yeah.
Okay.
It could go 5. Either one of those could go 5, but I think 4.75.
What about Hater and Stat?
4.75.
Okay. And then what do you think about the 4-way?
4.5.
Okay. I think we're pretty close. I wonder if Hater and Stat gets to 7.5. I was thinking 4.5. I mean, the fact that, anything over 4 is a really good match, but
All right, I got your star ratings for you
for Moxley.
He's had 10 5-star or more matches.
No way.
Yes. He's had the blood and guts match with the conglomeration.
Okay. Well, I'm what about
you
just
want
give me
singles matches?
Just
okay,
give me singles.
he's had Adam Page versus Jon Moxley Texas Death from July this year with 5.5. Shingo Takagi versus him in 2024 with 5 stars.
Is that in San Jose?
Yes, I think that was
Okay, so
like.
the
I
couldn't
Adam
see
Page
anything
versus Jon Moxley match was a 5-star Texas Death match, and then he had a match.
We were also at that one.
Yes. And then Jon Moxley versus Tomohiro Ishii from his G1.
Okay, I think I remember that match too. So 5.5. Wow, for
this might
for
be
this year's All In.
Is it better than the Texas Death match? They got 5.5.
Oof.
It's different. It's a different kind of match.
I really like that Texas Death match because I thought the story peaked the way that I wanted it to peak, and it was one of those moments where you're like, yes, they stuck the landing. They did this really perfectly. Yeah, I mean, it's probably pretty close.
It's in that they're hovering around each other. You know what I mean? Like the caliber of matches are both very, very good.
Yeah.
But I mean, one was a heel Moxley and one was a babyface Moxley. So, they are very different animals.
Yes, for sure. We'll end with Fernando's thing. He said, I would have preferred MJF winning the title from Hangman 1-on-1. So the idea behind MJF, at least we believe, we were talking to Big Dave about this today. The idea behind MJF winning the title from Samoa Joe is so that he can face Hangman as Hangman for the contender. So you can still do that match 1-on-1 without Hangman having to take a loss. Same with Swerve. And so the idea of it being a 4-way, the idea of Samoa Joe being the transitional champion was just to get the belt back on MJF so that MJF can have these singles matches that you're talking about, and for the baby faces to not have taken an L before they face MJF. So that is the thought process behind it. All right, Jeremy, you have a great safe flight to Japan. Get some rest. And you had mentioned to me that you might be doing some shows from Japan.
Yeah, it looks like Steven and I are definitely doing one on January 1st, maybe January 2nd in the morning for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not 100% sure whether we're doing a post Wrestle Kingdom show from Japan or not. So I'm gonna game plan with him this week. We are for sure doing a show on Thursday. Like it is.
Well, we
have to stay. We have to stay. I believe. I don't know what the word is, but we always have to do Thursday because that's
on
what our
schedule. You got to stay on schedule. I wish you good Wi-Fi. I hope that I hope the whole, where your hotel is and the Wi-Fi and your microphone.
Tokyo Dome Hotel. I'm hoping.
Okay, so hopefully it's a 7-star hotel. And you'll have the Wi-Fi and able to do the show with Steven. But have a great time, and we'll see you when you get back. And can't wait to hear about all of the stuff that you are able to do. All right.
I'm not kidding when I tell you it really does feel like a trip of a lifetime.
No, I mean, you have been, you had this one on schedule for a bit, and it's the perfect time, right? Tanahashi's retirement.
It all just the stars have aligned, my friend. The stars have aligned, and I count my lucky blessings that I have a fantastic wife who is allowing me to go off and do this. Uh, that that everything just kind of worked out. Yeah. I'm thankful.
All right, just give some shout outs to people who are in our chat. Shout out to Dana. Shout out to Fernando, as always. Ryan Howard, best recapper in the biz. Wrestling Community, who chimed in for a little bit, was in Chicago, so maybe even been at the show. Yeah, I think they were at the show because they said Moxley's win was the biggest pop of the night, next to MJF's win, and also to Matt, who was hanging out. And yeah, that is it. And Fernando says that we are the channel of the year. Fernando, that is so nice of you to say, in a very niche audience. Maybe that is the actually the right answer, but maybe not. But I do appreciate it. So to everybody, we'll have some more shows. I will be recording. More than likely, I'll be recording the last Observe This with Draven sometime in the next couple of days. I don't know about Jeff and Paul as far as the Dynamite show, if they're going to be able to go in their normal time, because I think that is on New Year's Eve. But we have content coming all week. So just check out the channel and you'll see all of the shows. And again, just got to shout out Jeremy's upcoming interview with Big Dave about Tanahashi premieres on the channel 10 a.m. Pacific on Monday. And the
Did
audio...
Brock Lesnar ruin Tanahashi's career? We'll find out.
And the audio will be in our Fight Game Media Network audio channel Monday morning. All right. Thanks to everybody. For Jeremy, I am Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.